God bless everybody today. It's September 4th of 2023, and this is an extremely important update. I want to say that up front. So just realize that I believe I've found something extremely important I want to show you today. And it deals with the paradigm. And so this is extremely important because I've been talking about this paradigm for a while. So if you go to eschatology, end of days survival at endofdaysurvival.com, you can bring up my page. It's a free Wix site. I don't sell anything out here except information. And you come down to these PDF files, click on this fourth PDF, and that will actually bring up the paradigm that I'm going to show you here. So if you've been following any of my stuff, you realize this is my paradigm. And that I found that 3 kings of the past reflect 3 kings of today that are in position of today. The times that they were in position in the past reflect the times that they're in position today, and they all work in conjunction together. Okay, I've done many videos about this. So when you come to this chart, I've basically taken the parable of the fig tree, and then I've added the paradigm to it. Now, this was an interesting process, and I documented when I did this that I had built the Psalm 90:10 parable of the fig tree, which used these 4 sets of dates, or number of days that Daniel 8 and 12 gives us, to show you how this is laid out and on the chart. But then I found this paradigm, which has 3 kings or leaders in the past that reflect 3 leaders of today that are in positions of today. They would be the leaders of Israel, past and future, the last 2, and Nebuchadnezzar, which would be Turkey or Erdogan. Now, when I put this together, I did not realize that the paradigm would fit in these areas here would fit in the parable of the fig tree without changing anything. Okay, so that was unique, and I thought it was extremely profound that when I found that all these prophets were saying the exact same thing, and they had these date stamps, what I call date stamps, attached to them. So in this, let's give you an example. In one case, in this year of this king of the 10th month of the 10th day of this year of this king, this would happen. Okay, so when I produced all this and I put it on here, I showed you the verses and where I found this stuff, and I did many videos on this. Okay, but I've changed one thing, and I think it's extremely important. I have said in the past that I thought this might be an option, okay? And I really wasn't sure, and I had to look more into it, and when I did, I found some really interesting stuff. So what I've done is this. You'll notice that I've changed some of these dates, and there's a reason for it. Some of the dates don't matter because they're just normal dates on our calendar, okay, like fall equinox, stuff like that, so you don't have to think about that. But what I realized was when we get into that first date, which would have been January 3rd date, we would see something extremely interesting happen, and that was that Daniel chapter 10 verse 4 and 13, where I thought we would start to see a potential ramping up of a war between Iran and Turkey and the Kurds, and that we would see Daniel 8 play out, which I still say is going to happen. And this change has not made a lot of difference, but what I have done is this. I have went from a Gregorian calendar to a Hebrew calendar. I originally thought, well, being it's a Gregorian calendar, you know, if it's the 10th day of the 10th month of this king, that would be October 10th. Thinking that we would understand it, you know, better. But I didn't realize, talking to somebody today, that, and I had thought about this before, that maybe I should actually use a Hebrew calendar, and that would change how this is laid out, because the Hebrew calendar starts around the Feast of Trumpets of every year. And so there's about a 73-day difference between our calendar and the Hebrew calendar. And I said, well, that's really interesting. So what would that do to the paradigm, and how that would affect us if that's the case? And what I found is something extremely interesting, I think. And it actually probably makes more sense than my original attempt. And I'm always willing to admit when maybe I'm wrong. So I want to give you this additional option. I believe it's a better option. I believe that gives you a better picture. And I believe because this very first date that I'm going to show you really matters to this paradigm, that we really need to look at this, because this is extremely important in how we move forward here. So if you go to my old paradigm calendar, this date here was October 10th of 23. I've been talking about this October 10th of 23 for a while. I've changed it, and the reason I'm going to show you why I've changed it, because I found something extremely profound, I believe. Okay, and then this date would be 15 days after this date. So just realize that these two numbers have changed. Okay, that's the only numbers that have changed on this portion of the chart, are just this number, or this date set here, which went from October 10th of 23 to December 22nd of 23, and that this date would be 15 days later. Now, why did I do this? And why is this so important? Because if you look at December 22nd of 23, it's a profound date in the Jewish calendar. And so maybe we should be using the Jewish Hebrew calendar instead of the Gregorian calendar, because this is God and his people that we're talking about, and not a Gentile thing. And so it's a Jewish thing. And so maybe I should have went to the next level here. And so we're going to go to the next level now and look at what happens when I do this. Okay, I hope I'm getting ready to blow your mind here, because this blew my mind when I saw it. And I believe it was led to me so that I would understand this better, and I believe it makes the calendar and the paradigm work even better than it did before, because it makes more sense. So when you take this October 2nd date, okay, so when you take that October 10th date, and you move it 73 days ahead, it ends up being December 22nd of 23. And that's what I mean. The Jewish calendar, or the Hebrew calendar, is 73 days further along than ours. And the reason that is because their month starts, their beginning of the year starts in the Feast of Trumpets. And it varies from year to year, but it's always during the Feast of Trumpets. Okay, so you need to know when that date is. But when you go from October 10th of 23 and you add 73 days to that, you end up on December 22nd of 23. And that is a profound date in the Jewish calendar. So this is the 10th of, or 10 Tevet 5784. Now, I'm not very good with the Jewish calendars and stuff, so just realize my dyslexia does not work well in this world. So hopefully you can follow where I'm coming here. This is important. Please listen to what I'm talking to you about, because this is extremely important. What I'm getting ready to explain to you, I believe, is an extremely important key to understanding when this event is going to happen. Okay, so if Friday the 22nd of 23 is 73 days after the 10th of October, which is when my Gregorian calendar is, This would be the Hebrew date. When you come to this date, though, this is extremely important date, okay? Because this is the 10th of Tevet. Okay, now, the reason this is extremely important is because look at what it's saying here. You can't write this stuff, man. I'm telling you. This is so important. Both temples and Jerusalem were literally attacked on the 10th of Tevet. First and second temple. Okay. And look at this. The first temple was sieged by the Babylonians on Jerusalem. Okay, we're talking about Turkey coming up. How could a city be attacked 3 times on the very same date in the history of mankind? The first temple, the second temple, and the third temple all could be attacked possibly on the very same date. Is that crazy? So when I saw this, I thought that can't be right. It just can't be right. Could we see a siege on Jerusalem on December 22nd of 23, which would be on the 10th of Tevet, which would be the same time that we saw the original temple attack and sieges on them. The first temple was sieged by the Babylonians. Imagine that. That would be Turkey. That would be Erdogan, okay? And look at that. Zedekiah, which would be Reuben Revlin, in his 9th year. So in 2014, you go to 2023, that'd be his 9th year, the 10th day of the 10th month, which would be actually December 22nd and not October 10th. We would see Israel besieging this, and that would continue until the 11th year of Zedekiah. And so that's why I keep saying the siege is going to happen up to almost 2 years. So I've switched all of my paradigm dates to Hebrew dates because I believe they matter more than the Gregorian dates. And the reason I believe they matter more than the Gregorian date is this date. Can you imagine if he literally sieges Jerusalem on the same day that he did in the past when the first and second temple were literally attacked? So could he literally attack the temple 3 times on the same day? And that in this paradigm, it actually shows us these dates and that these days are going to happen. And so, when I feel I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first to admit this. I do not believe at this moment in time it is a Gregorian calendar date. And I do believe that it's a fast movement for Erdogan to break into Syria and have him literally be in a position to siege Jerusalem by October 10th. It doesn't seem possible in this frame of time, even though God can do anything. But this makes more sense. Would God literally attack them again? Siege them on the same date that he has 2 times before? Isn't that just insane if it would actually happen like that? And so when you go through and you look at what is coming up, we should look at the temple destructions of the 2 past temples and determine that maybe the 3rd temple, not that the temple's there, but the siege on Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar could literally happen on the same time it has happened in the past. And the 2nd temple fell through the Romans, through Titus. So, but this is Nebuchadnezzar, and we're talking about Nebuchadnezzar and Erdogan being Nebuchadnezzar reflecting Nebuchadnezzar in the past and the time that he's been in position. So I believe this is extremely important. So if you go back to the chart, that is why I've changed these dates. Now, like I say, on this part of the calendar or the timeline here, the only dates that have changed are these two. The reason for this is this. The December 22nd date would be when he besieges Jerusalem, as he did the 2 times prior, okay? But he gives these 10 nations literally an hour of power, which if you go into the biblical calendar of 1,000 years of ours to 1 day of God, it would be 15 days. 1 hour would be 15 days on earth, okay? And so that would then take us to January 6th, which could be a 6th seal event. So that's moved up, okay? All this stuff's moved up 73 days due to this stuff, but it hasn't changed the paradigm. You realize that the paradigm is the same, it's just the dates have changed a little bit, but it hasn't changed anything else. Okay, so in January, we potentially could see a global nightmare earthquake event happening. Okay, that's extremely important. The 6th seal is a major event. Now, when you get into this portion of the paradigm and you get towards the signing of the treaty and desolation, all I've done are just change these dates 73 days so that it makes more sense, and it didn't change anything in the paradigm. Okay, none of the charts have changed. It still fits. But I believe the Hebrew calendar dates would make more sense here, and being that this date back here literally is a destruction event on Israel and Jerusalem in the past 2 times before, you've got to think maybe this is something extremely important. We should be looking to that date of 23 of December 22nd. And like I say, this affected both the first and second temple, and both temples were destroyed on this very specific date. The first one was attacked and destroyed by the Babylonians in 587 to 586 BCE, and the second temple was destroyed by the Romans and Titus in 70 CE. So this would have been Nebuchadnezzar, this was Titus. This is extremely important. This would fall on the exact same date that it did before, and so God works in threes. I'm guessing that he'll attack Jerusalem on this date the 3rd time, even though there's not a temple there at this very moment. So you can go out and look at those dates on the paradigm. I believe that the attack on Jerusalem will happen as it has in the past, because everything I present to you is a past to future thing, as I have for years now. It's always been past to future. I wish I had seen this before, but I believe God does things in His time and not mine, and so I have adjusted this calendar. I want you to see this calendar so that you can see what's coming, and I believe December 22nd of this year could be a major event. God bless everybody and have a great day.